Hello, we're back from our 1 week break.
Yes, welcome back. You
Thank
did
you.
not take much of a break from your break, though. You've been on the move.
Yeah, that was, I was talking to my dad yesterday and he said I sounded tired and I am because I live in Eastern time. We vacationed in the Central time zone. I should preface this by this is a first world problem that I'm about to revisit. We were vacationing in the Central time zone, flew back to the Eastern time zone. That night, the time changed to whatever that equivalent
Fresh
would be.
hell.
I guess back to Central. Then I flew to Mountain Time
No, no,
for two
because in
nights.
Central, you're behind an hour. You lost 2 hours coming home.
Okay. Yeah. And then I flew to Mountain and then I flew back to Eastern.
Mm,
Like, I don't know which end is up, what is going on. I'm so
that is
tired.
some tough math right there.
Yeah.
Either to do it or to live it.
Yeah.
You've lived it.
Yeah.
I
And then
hand it to you,
also
though.
I was at a great conference on Monday, but you know how it is. It's tired. Like you're not usually on like that in
Yeah,
normal life.
you're on constantly, the whole day, the whole time. Yeah, and it as good as it is. Do you schedule rest days after that kind of thing, work related, like where you just have
I
downtime?
never really have. My partner Tiffany is so good at that because we used to put on these bloggy boot camps, which
Mm,
she MCs, which I
right.
mean she loves. She's like Britney Spears with the head ear thing.
Headset, yeah.
She'll do that all day, every day. But she always would schedule a day off to recover, and
Mm,
I don't know if it's that
mhm,
I'm older now or but
mm.
a day off, I felt like I couldn't take a day off because I had just had vacation, but I definitely, as soon as my meetings were over yesterday, I relocated myself to the couch to at least work horizontally.
That's what I love that you call it relocating too. It's very formal. It's like
Yeah.
strategic.
Well,
I'm
this is
relocating.
like,
Yeah.
this is like the sitting upright office. There's something about going upstairs and like unplugging from the monitor and like it's still
Yeah.
working, but it feels a little bit more doable when you're
Anything on the couch, I agree. It's hybrid. That's your hybrid work
right.
environment.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to let you start because you had the idea
Oh.
for what we're going to
Okay.
talk about today.
Well, I had the idea, and I've actually already written about this on LinkedIn. In the last week, I don't know if this came out of South by, but Unilever made a proclamation that they are going to 20x their investment in influencer marketing. That is the headline. I don't know the details, if this is a 5-year plan, if this is in the next 12 months, if it is by the end of 2025. I have no idea. All I know is my experience with that news has been people are losing their minds, like
Yeah,
losing their minds.
I feel like I'm the only one who didn't post about it. And now I feel like like when a song becomes super popular and then you feel like you shouldn't like it anymore.
Macarena, we're looking at you. No, no, wait.
I felt like I can't, like, I'm not, everyone's posting about this. Am I supposed to post? Am I supposed to post about this?
Right.
And then I felt like it was kind of like a nothing.
Mm,
Like, what does that even mean? Multiplying by 20 times? Is it 20 times the revenue put towards that?
right.
Are they switching to all nano influencers? So it's just going to be 20 times the people with no change in the
Right.
money that they're spending? They are
Right.
global. Their articles I read about it were really focused on non-US based
Mm.
marketing.
Mm.
So, what does that mean for agencies who do the bulk of their work in the US? Like, how is that like maybe it's just that like you could 20x your marketing spend just by suddenly starting to do it in Asia where you hadn't
Yeah.
before. Like, there's a lot.
Such great questions.
And then the other, I don't know if we want to wait to talk about this. So Unilever has always been pretty hot on influencer stuff. They are one of the primary investors in Creator IQ, which
Aha.
if I'm gonna get like a little snippy right now, which I know you always encourage, so
Oh,
here we go.
you're blaming me. I just welcome
I
it.
am.
I want to see the full Danielle.
We have been very happy with Creator IQ and we love the tech that we get out of them. One of my complaints, which this wouldn't be news to them, I don't think, because if I know myself, I've shared this with them. Because their major investor is Unilever, their primary objective is keeping brands happy and iterating and scaling to meet the needs of brands, which when you talk about an influencer platform, those needs are very different than the needs of an agency. So for example, one of the tools in their platform that we use all the time is the One Sheet. And this is the online interface that you use to present influencers to your clients so they can make their selection. So, like, we go through and do our recruitment, we might find 15 who are a great fit, we vet them, they're amazing, we present that to the client, they choose their favorite 10, that sort of thing. That whole interface is not that important to a brand. They're not presenting influencers to a client. They're choosing them for themselves. So that system, they are finally updating it this year, but it's looked the same for years and years. It's looked the same
Right.
since we started working with them back in 2018. All that to say, thank you for letting me vent about their
A little bit neglectful
finance,
there. Yeah.
yeah, their investments. But influencer has always been a big thing. I mean, even when I worked at Edelman, we worked on a lot, worked on Dove, we worked on Axe. Like influencer was
Hmm.
always a piece of what
Right. And then
really.
you just added another layer. There are so many brands that could implicate. So what does that mean?
Like the brands that I mean, yeah, they have food, like they have mayonnaise, they have
Yeah. I feel like they
deodorant, they
did the
have,
Choco Taco, maybe.
they
That's
bought Ben
gone
and
now.
Jerry's.
Yes, right, exactly. Um, I'm with you. I did post about it, but my post was more a little bit of a head scratcher first. And this links to a couple of episodes ago. I talked about how my frustration, it was our venting episode, and I couldn't really put my finger on something that was bothering me. And I said, sort of in a general way, anybody who's out there saying, I'm going to give you in 25 minutes, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the creator economy in 2025. But linked to that is this predominance of quote unquote thought leadership for our industry that is nothing but data regurgitation. So somebody who has a lot of inside information at a Creator IQ, at a Linkia, at a Viral Nation, at you name it, at Influential, and they come out with this post like, influencer marketing is going to grow by $3 billion next year. You know, all these statistics, which it's like, I could look those up. You could look those up. You guys are thought leaders. Tell me what it means. What does it
Right.
mean to anything we're doing? That's how I feel about the takes I saw out there on Unilever is here's the news. And I'm like, that's the ticker. Like, what does it mean that they're, and you just elucidated or illuminated all of the different layers to this, that is it really good news? How do we know that other brands are going to follow suit or other holding companies are going to follow suit?
And where are they pulling that money from? Is it TV that they're gonna stop doing? Is it something
Right,
else entirely?
right.
Are they just increasing their marketing budget?
Right, right. So the layers that this seeps through in terms of questions that it brings up is which brands are affected, which regions are impacted. And let me ask you this without any of those answers. Let's say it is a true scaling up. So whatever they're doing now, they're going to tax all of it. How does an enterprise tackle that? We're not talking about 2x or 3x, 20x. Imagine trying to do 20 times more than you do right now in your day. That's a little, make 20 more beds in a day or make 20 times more phone calls in a day. Not just 20 phone calls, but if you make 5, now you're making 100. So, on that scale, my argument is this is an operations strategy, not a marketing strategy necessarily, because you have to scale your operations to handle this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Are they
probably
hiring?
both. It's probably
Yeah.
both. I mean, they've always out they yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like I probably know too much about how they operate just because I did work at Edelman. I know that a lot of their work goes through their PR agencies or their media buying agencies who then outsource stuff, probably less than they used to, because a lot of these agencies have built in-house influencer teams. But with a lot of the work that they were doing, there used to be this layered game of telephone situation happening, which was making the influencer spend diluted. So, like, they
Mm,
would hire a PR agency to oversee the influencer marketing. That PR agency would pull out 50% to run it and then take 50% and give that to the influencer marketing agency, who would then have to pull out their margin and then take money to pay the actual
mm-hmm,
influencers. You actually could argue that Unilever could be giving 20 times more to influencers if they took it all in house
mm-hmm,
and stopped having agencies pull out a margin, or to eliminate some of those layers. So even if they're probably going to have to get at least some help from
right.
agencies, that they are, at least limiting the number of entities pulling out agency fee.
Or if not limiting the entities, creating some structure around what those fees look like,
Right.
some expectation around here's the budget. We need at least this much to trickle down to actual influencer paychecks. And you
Right.
decide, but then paycheck for an influencer plus digital paid advertising around it, then that becomes, it's a kind of a ball of yarn that needs to be
Yeah,
untangled.
is it multiply by 20 the influencer spend, or is it multiply, which would encompass that paid, or is it multiply by 20 the money going to influencers?
Right. And then if they try to bring it, somebody on my post actually suggested that the only way to effectively do this or for brands to replicate this right now is to take it all in house. I'm like, there's a shit show right there waiting to happen.
That's an interesting take, because I feel like when big agencies who do have in-house, or brands who do have in-house, they occasionally do come to us, and it's always because it's a scale that they can't handle.
100%. And that's not a 20x that they can't handle. We have 5 clients. We got a 6th one. We need to bump this one to somebody else, right? It's, I think, smaller scale than the 20x.
Yeah.
And as a side note, maybe it's not a side note, I've been giving a lot of thought to operations and how part of this has to do with Nimbus that's coming up, and looking at the titles of the folks coming to this event and how wide and varied the playing field is when we talk about decision makers, and sometimes decision makers versus the people actually running the programs. Those can be two different things.
Hmm.
And so I look at this X number as a jumping off point for there needs to be more clarity around those roles and titles. I think I don't see this enough. I don't see any director of operations of influencer like I see director of marketing or director of influencer partnerships. But I think they need to start layering an ops person who can handle the tech, the frameworks, the hiring, the behind the scenes
Yeah.
infrastructure to help the creative unfold the way they want it to unfold.
Well, I mean, the fact that they do have this investment in creator IQ leads me to believe that, even if, to your
Mm,
point, and I agree, they can't possibly handle all of this in-house, but they certainly can have an opinion as to how the work is done. And maybe, are they insisting that their agencies use creator IQ?
mm,
Are they, even if they're pulling in, I mean, they're going to have to pull in multiple agencies.
mhm.
I guess they don't have to. You could find just one giant, enormous one. But when you look at the number of different brands, the number of different products, the number of different countries, the amount of languages, like, I think you would have to pull in at least a few different agencies for
That
this.
aren't already part of the
Right.
ecosystem.
But then
Yes.
to your point, there has to be some kind of operational consistency there, so everything's being measured the same way. We had a client a few years ago who had a number of different brands, and they realized that in a single year, they were using 65 different agencies to do some kind of element of
Right.
influencer marketing.
Sounds efficient.
Yeah, I mean, well, and they realized, like, this is crazy.
Right.
Let's get this organized.
Yeah.
But then this gets into the whole procurement conversation, because Unilever is
The
a
P word.
giant global
Hmm.
holding company.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I think when you say there should be an operational team to manage all of this, that sounds lovely and smart and great. I think the reality of how this often gets handled at a holding company is it's a procurement team
Mm,
that's not
not the
involved in
same
the
thing.
day-to-day of
Yeah,
it and is just looking at the dollar signs and the numbers and making sure they're getting the very
right.
treating influencer the same way they're treating the cardboard boxes that they're ordering to put
Paper
the Dove
clips.
soap in. Yeah.
No, right. And it is, that's how much time do you have? That's a whole different podcast. Procurement does not understand marketing, point blank, done. So I think what you've just said is like the two sides of the coin. Either it's going to absolutely tax and burden the current systems in place at a holding company like Unilever, their current agencies, even the platforms, because people run those platforms. AI and software can only do so much. Like you said, when things need to be updated and that monolith is telling you they need attention, you're going to pull attention from other places. So it's going to burden or break significantly, I think, the systems they have in place. Or they have to plan for growing those systems and support, which is its own bailiwick and can lead to having 65 agencies helping you out because there is no oversight, not procurement, but there's no operational oversight around what does the entire landscape look like for Unilever. It's a big, so that's you and I think, are ultimately on the same page that it is news, but it's not as positive if we dig into it as it seems on the surface. I think there's a lot of downside
I have a
that could come
question
out of it.
for
Yeah.
you. Do you think you and I are struggling with this a little bit more and looking at it not in the like, oh, happy day perspective, because we both come from the perspective that what we do is very hands-on and human-based and
Mm.
white glove and involves people? Because saw some and heard and was messaged about like this could be solved with AI
Mm.
chatter
Hmm.
about this and just let the robots take over, and that's an easy way to tax what they're doing, which if it were that easy from my perspective, from your perspective, that would be a great way to tackle this.
I mean, having AI tackle this brings back up the question, what does 20xing your investment mean? Because if it's 20xing the number of influencers you can reach out to, and AI helps solve for that, that's one thing. But if you're not putting 20x the budget into working with those influencers, that's another thing. I don't, we can actually, this might be a good place to segue into the AI conversation because I've been experimenting, as I told you, with Sintra X,
Hmm.
which are just 12 different little assistant AI bots. And there are some things that the bots or the AI can really create ease around. And then there are other things that are absolutely goofy that they come back with that are nonsensical. And I'll tell you the other piece of it is getting AI involved in content creation, for instance. And it might be just this bot, but I don't think so. And I might not even be using the right terminology, this platform. Every time I put in a prompt, it will spit me out so much information. And then 17 questions. Would you like me to refine this? Would you like more solutions? Would you like da da da? And I'm like, the proliferation of results is going to swamp all of us. And yes, then back to your point, we need human being eyes, ears, nose, senses involved in this to curate the noise because there's just going to be so much noise.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that AI, like, sure, it's great if AI can help with some of the outreach and automate some of the tasks that feel super admin-y. But I was thinking about this the other day. Like, what if you get to like, we are working on a program and a creator came up with a concept, generated the concept was approved by the client. The creator made the video, and then the client had some feedback and needs some edits made. Now, you and I both know that it's sticky to give feedback to someone who's creative. It's totally valid feedback, and we're going to have to share that feedback and get some edits made. One, because we want our client to be thrilled and happy, and two, they've paid for that, and the content needs to be what it needs to be, but it's delicate.
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
human
it's
touch.
hard to give people constructive criticism about something that is an extension of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think AI is super helpful in that scenario.
No, and it doesn't meet your mission as an agency of being the expert in the room that protects your client, your brand client, from having to have the difficult conversations, keeping the brand reputation above board with that influencer. So I think when we're talking about AI and solutions, we have to understand what the goal is. If expediting or streamlining mundane administrative tasks is at hand, fine. If it's maintaining relationships, protecting client and risk management, no, AI should not be involved in the
Right.
picture.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Well, it'll be interesting to see it play out. I also don't understand why people think this is so great vis-a-vis the whole industry. We were headed in this direction. The exponential growth in the industry has been forecast for 10 years now.
I guess my impression of it was that it was just lip service. Because what I'm seeing right now in the marketing world is everyone is very nervous and confused about what's happening from an economic and global perspective. And there's concerns about recession, and there's worries from businesses, and there's tariffs, and there's all this stuff happening. The reality is that any responsible company is moving a little bit cautiously right now, similar to how they did during COVID, just
Mm,
because we don't know what things are going to look like a few months from now. Sure, that's great. Multiply it by 20. Please have all my clients do the same thing. But like, can you really? Like, are you ready? I was at this meeting I was at on Monday was with 11 other marketing and advertising agencies, and all of them were saying that clients are moving at a snail's pace right now, and budgets aren't being opened up all at once, and everything is kind of just trickling in because everyone's taking this wait and see,
right,
you know, how things are going to pan out from an economic perspective. So,
right.
like, sure, that's great. Yes, let's multiply our agency revenues by 20 times because that's what you need, Unilever. But, like, are you gonna?
Right. And it's not that it's tone deaf, but it is not a bellwether of what's happening in the industry at large.
Yeah.
It's what Unilever is putting out there potentially as a feel good statement, and influencer is a buzzword that they can, maybe get traction around. But the real competition is the economic headwinds and uncertainty versus anybody looking at Unilever and saying, oh, now we're going to jump into it because Unilever is 20xing their spend.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's not going to work like that.
I mean, I hope it does. That'd be great.
Right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for going there with me. We'll
Anytime.
see. We'll have to have another episode down the road if we see the signs of life of this plan coming to fruition.
Yeah. We will circle back, as they say in the biz.
The topic of next week's episode is phrases we're not supposed to say in marketing. Circle back, looping you in.
Flesh this out, flush it out. Which one is it? Yeah.
Synergy. Neither one is particularly appealing.
No, they're both
Flushing it or
gross.
fleshing it.
We don't like either one. Okay. On that note, see you next week.
I'll see you then.